yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Welcome. The show is in honor of, and we have a special guest with us today. I'd like to welcome, first of all, my co-host, Paul Dietrich, who's been with us virtually for every show, except for when he was on vacation a couple of weeks ago. And I want to welcome retired Major Tom Mauchley, U.S. Air Force. And Tom, welcome, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Tom is the in charge of the junior ROTC at Susan Wagner High School?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you also teach there?
Yes, sir.
You have my blessings.
High school teaching, wow.
And you attended the U.S. Air Force Academy, which is quite an achievement, and you have every reason in the world to be very proud of yourself, believe me, son. Tell us a little bit about your career.
Alrighty. Well, I started in 1978, graduated from high school up in New Hampshire, and didn't really have a direction necessarily. Didn't get any significant scholarship, so I enlisted into the Air Force. Was a flight simulator technician down in Altus, Oklahoma. Went in for below the zone stripe to E4, and the squadron commander said, go down to the education office and apply to the academy. I didn't know that there was such a program, that the general enlisted competitive category gives 85 enlisted troops a year the opportunity to go to the academy, and they compete against each other. So that year, 59 of us competed for the 85 slots. So I went to the academy and graduated in '85. Went to pilot training down at Vance Air Force Base. They asked me to stay on as an instructor. Went to San Antonio for instructor training, met my wife, and brought her back up to Enid, Oklahoma, so she could see the world. Enid by the Sea, we affectionately called it.
Oh, yeah.
And then taught in T-37s there for a few years, and went from there to Arkansas to fly C-130s. During Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I was flying C-130 missions, and immediately after that, provide comfort, dropping food to the Kurds in northern Iraq. And then I went into a TALO business, theater airlift liaison for the Army, with the Big Red One up in Fort Riley, Kansas. Yep. And also got into the tactical airlift control element, basically small, austere location aircraft or airfield control management, and did that for a couple years, and then got into the Joint Readiness Training Center at Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Where it's always nice and hot and humid.
Yeah, that's another garden spot. So spent 8 years in Arkansas while I was doing all that, and then as a TALO / in the Talsi business, went to Somalia and Kenya, and to Zaire for the Rwanda refugee thing, and to Haiti. And
you've been to all of these vacation spots,
oh, yeah.
garden spots, yeah.
Well, when we went to Kenya, they put us up in a 5-star hotel, but we were on field rations. So they gave us 12,000 shillings a day, which I don't know what that is in American money, but it was
not much.
But it fed us well, I know that. And my wife was really upset that I'm over there, the 40 days and 40 nights in Kenya and in the hot desert, and then she found out when I brought all the pictures home that we were in a 5-star hotel. That didn't work.
Well, sounds almost like me when I sent pictures of my tour in Baghdad, because we were in one of Saddam's palaces in Baghdad, and we had this nice swimming pool with the fountain and everything.
Well,
And
you
she
couldn't
says,
use the swim pool. It was full of shrapnel.
Yes, but it was like, it looked nice, yeah, but nobody was out there bathing.
Wow.
So then they asked me to come out here to New Jersey in the Expeditionary Center, which used to be called the Warfare Center, to teach there. And then I stayed on at McGuire, became a KC-10 pilot. And tanker pilot, and went back over to Afghanistan, Iraq, and flew a lot of tanker missions over there. And after 9/11, flew a lot of tanker missions straight over our heads here.
One of my VFW post members was one of the first female boom operators. So
that's what my son's doing now. Flying a boom. He's been to Germany a couple of times, only been in the job for a couple months.
Yep.
He's loving that job.
Well, you had quite a colorful career. You really, touched all bases. Where did you start out from? Where did you call home before you enlisted?
Well, we lived in New Hampshire for 2 years, so sort of called that home for maybe a couple more years after I enlisted, but I grew up in Maryland, Frederick, Maryland. Okay. And so anymore, I think I still call that home, even though I don't have any family there. And, it's, my family, my mom and dad, they don't live in New Hampshire anymore either, so it's kind of hard to call New Hampshire home. I do have brothers and sisters there, but so when people ask me where am I from, that's the hardest question to answer when you've been in the military for, at this point, since 1978. It feels like
changes all the time.
The house I live in now, I've lived there for 20 years. That's the most stable I've ever been.
Yep.
I was just going to say, how did you land on Staten Island?
Well, actually, it's in Jersey.
Yeah, I live in South Jersey, south of McGuire Air Force Base. That's what brought me to New Hampshire or New Jersey. And after I retired, I piddled around with a little smoothie bar business in the gym and sold smoothies, and had high school kids working for me selling power shakes and all that kind of stuff. And one of my customers came up and asked me if I could come up to Queens. Senior Master Sergeant Harold Colbert, I love that guy, but then he asked me if I'd be interested in working with him, and it was really a job interview, and I didn't even know it. And but to work in Queens and live in South Jersey, I realized I couldn't do that.
That's a hell of a trip.
And then a close friend of mine worked at Wagner, and he says, "I'm going to leave the job. Do you want it?" And then I took it.
Okay, that's good. How do the kids find dealing with you? They have to look at you in a different perspective than they would for the average teacher. I mean, the average teacher's young, probably wearing jeans and a hoodie.
And we have to wear a uniform every day.
Yeah.
It's interesting because most of the kids are very respectful. They get into the program. It's a volunteer program. So they get into the program. They want to be a part of something. Yep. And they're there because they see the program as a stepping stone to improve themselves. We're not recruiters. We're not trying to get them into the military. Some go in anyway, and there's benefits for them. But most of them are hopefully going to college. That's really our goal.
Yes.
And so they look up to us from the perspective, my coworker is Master Sergeant Luis Adams. They look up to us from the perspective of, they know and they learn that what we've done with our lives is something different than the average person does. And so there's a good amount of respect there. The school has deans that are in charge of disciplinary actions, and
right.
I've heard from many teachers that say, well, I'm going to send you the deans and behavior doesn't stop, and then, well, I'm going to send you down to the master sergeant or the major, and all of a sudden the behavior is instantly rectified. So I would think that there's something there.
So then you're wearing two hats. They're using you as the ultimate weapon to stop the bad behavior.
Right. And we encourage good behavior, obviously.
Okay. But I think it's important if you look at the major's career and you look at what the kids are looking for nowadays, we all know how expensive college is. Getting into a good college is important for a kid going to build a future for themselves, and most of them realize that. And the military is one method to do that. I got my master's degree from the Army. You got your degree from the Army, from the Air Force. Again, this is both of us did the same route too. We both went enlisted to officer, which is unusual. There's not a lot of Mustangs per se around, but we utilized the system to our advantage and to the military's advantage. And my command was in western Pennsylvania, and the area was extremely economically depressed. I had kids all the time that exactly the same thing. This was the only way they would ever be able to get a college degree. And they were utilizing that, okay, serving and getting something back from it. But talk a little bit about the JROTC program and what it is, because many people don't understand it. They don't understand that it potentially leads to ROTC in college for those colleges that have it and offer it. But talk a little bit about the program, what you do with the students, how they react. I can tell you, when I spoke in front of the Wagner, I don't think there was a peep out of them. Think about that versus a normal class.
And when you came out to us, that was a week before school started.
Yes, and
So
they were there already.
I had about 50 students out there. Almost half the program was out there a week prior, welcoming our freshmen in. But the Junior ROTC program is something sponsored by the Department of Defense. It covers all the main branches of service. So here on Staten Island, we have Air Force at Wagner. We have Air Force at Newdorp. We have the Marines at Tottenville. We have Curtis High School has Navy, and Port Richmond has the Army.
Yes.
So we have 5 Junior ROTC programs here on Staten Island. Probably the biggest misrepresentation and misconception about Junior ROTC is that we're, the fear that we're teaching people how to be warriors and all that kind of stuff, and we're not trying to recruit people. We're not trying to get them into the military. There is no military commitment, and we're certainly not trying to make them into the quote-unquote baby killers that everybody's afraid of. Our main goals is character. Trying to build up people who have some character and value what's been done for our country. So we do have a big impact in honoring vets, and just this past weekend we got to go out and honor 2 World War I veterans who one gave up his life in the war and the other one got to live a nice long age but had served, and they were upgraded to Medal of Honor recipients a couple years ago, and we got to go unveil a stone and honor that family. Both families,
we put
actually.
that on video. We had our camera crew out there.
And it's interesting. I look at various people in our country who kneel down to the Americans' national anthem, and they get paid a lot of money. And then I've got 4 kids out there volunteering their time, 93-degree heat, standing there next to an American flag during the national anthem, and they're sweating like crazy, and they walk away so proud.
Yeah.
And all the kids end up with a degree of just love of their country, and that's really, and they come from every demographic. It's not, we have rich, we have poor, we have white, we have black, everything in between, and the result is an extended family. These kids end up loving each other to death. They'll do anything for each other. But the biggest thing is we really push their academics. We hold them accountable for their conduct. We educate them in character. The Air Force Junior ROTC program focuses on leadership and aerospace sciences and wellness. So that's our big main 3-tier.
Well, you're building character, and when I was growing up, being in the military was considered to build character.
Yes.
Because usually you were a kid out in the street and you were playing ball, you were doing music and partying on weekends or what have you, and then when you went in the military, by the time you came out of the military, you were a different person. Okay, you matured, and you looked at other things in life that were important that you didn't do as a kid. So what you're doing is you're building character, and you're taking it one step beyond. You're not doing what the military just did when you joined off the street, but you're training them from a young age how to be a good person and how to be an intelligent person and how to use all of your tools to become the best person you can. Okay, it's not, and like you said, you're not teaching them to go out there and be warriors. You're not teaching them to go out there and learn how to kill or something like that. It's just, no, that's not the case. I mean, what you're doing is very commendable.
A big focus on leadership. I mean, where can you go and spend a semester being in charge of logistics or operations or various different jobs? Half our cadets have a job within the program, and you can't just go out there and gain experience like that, a life skill, without paying a lot of money or putting your life, or not life on the line, but putting your reputation on the line if you make mistakes. But here, they make mistakes, and we fix them, and we train them, and when they're all said and done, they end up having some good leadership skills as a result as well. And you can't put a price tag on that portion of it.
And every September you have all newborns. You're starting fresh, and
yeah, show me a program, or show me a company that's got 120 people in the organization, and you turn over the top 25 people every 6, or really it's only 5 months, because the school year is only 10 months. So you turn over the whole top portion of the organization every 5 months, and then the whole organization is flushed out, a quarter of its population every year, and you bring in new ones every year, and the kids run it. That's the amazing part of it, is they're running it.
They're running their own program.
They're running the program. As much as possible, as much as legally. I mean, we have to be there. We're the adult supervision and all that stuff. But just today, I had a situation where a door didn't get opened up quick enough for the girls to be able to get back down into the locker room, and some of them decided to get a little bit rambunctious about it. Well, the cadets who were the seniors, who were the girls, they put everything down. One of the deans came over to let them in, and apparently someone said something that was inappropriate to them, and the girls took care of that. Say, my young kids aren't going to misbehave without the older kids getting in on that and say, this isn't the way we're going to behave. And that's the
amazing.
beauty of it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah.
I was proud of them today.
Okay, Paul.
So you have this in high school, and then some of them will choose to go into ROTC when they go to college. And again, there's no hard and fast commitment.
Right.
In my own case, one of my supervisors, his daughter went to college, and she wanted to be in the Army, and she wanted to become a nurse. So she took ROTC. Again, scholarship was a part of that, but she didn't have the funding to be able to pay for nursing school. She ended up going to ROTC, and ROTC, they actually get paid as, I believe it's E5s, if I'm correct. So they get paid as a hard sergeant in the Army, because that's what she was in, while they're drilling, while they go away during the summer. And she went to nursing school. And she went to nursing school on the Army's dime. And today, 10 years later, she's a major nurse. She's trying to remember the exact, she's a female nurse, shall we say, in the Army. She takes care of the women's issues in the Army. But she's had a very good career. She spent 5 years in Hawaii. I mean, that's not rough duty compared to some of the places you and I have been. And it's been a very successful career for her. But she wouldn't have been able to do that without the JROTC that she started in high school and then went on to ROTC. I think it made her realize that was what she wanted to do and helped her out. The other thing I want to point out is I had a brigade command. I needed in my command somewhere around 70 lieutenants. I had about 6.
Wow.
Because when I had my command, the war in Iraq started.
Okay.
All of the lieutenants, because the biggest feeder source in the reserves is from ROTC. Every ROTC cadet coming out during the Iraq war was going active duty. They had to go active duty. There were no reserve slots available, so we didn't have any. So it created massive problems for me because I had all of these platoons without lieutenants running around. And obviously the Army and the military has put officers in certain places for reasons. But again, these programs feed into the service if you choose to do that. A lot of them now, with the wars winding down, the reserve ROTC programs feed into the reserves, so that situation has corrected. But again, opportunities for people that would not have opportunities to get the education and to do what they want, like this young lady who ended up becoming a nurse. So.
And a lot of them just enlist. Our junior ROTC kids who enlist, all 4 branches of the service will at least give them 1 stripe. The Air Force will give them 2 stripes. So if they finish the program, and so that's a little bit of a bonus too. That if they finish the program, they can get 1 to 2 stripes, depending on what branch of the service they get them into. That just lets you know that the services recognize the program as a source of leadership. They're willing to give people credit and authority.
Does the JROTC program differentiate from the Marines, the Air Force, the Army? Are their programs all the same or in structure?
Unfortunately, I have to give you an ignorant answer because I don't really know. I do know we all focus on leadership, we all focus on drill and physical fitness. So that's pretty much going to be very similar. When you talk about the leadership portions of our various programs, they're going to be structured and modeled after our parent services. So you know, the terminologies and all that's going to stay within whatever service branch the instructors are from. The other part of it, since I teach aerospace science, the other branches are probably not going to teach anything like that.
Right.
The Army's probably going to teach some military science, Navy's going to be nautical science, the Marines are probably also going to be a mixture of those two, I would imagine. So but that's only about a 40% of the element. So about 60% of what all the junior ROTC programs are doing is going to be very similar. And you can see it when we go to drill comps and everybody's got their uniforms on and they all look sharp and they're all proud and they get out on the drill deck.
And they wear a uniform to school.
Yeah, that's, yeah, and sometimes that's a problem because you know, that means they have to wear a haircut that resembles a military haircut. And you know, we have kids that come in and they don't want to do it, and they say, well, you can't wear the uniform then. You know, we can't disrespect the uniform.
So, and they wash out, or?
Well, they have to make a decision. You're either in the program or you're not. But if you're in the program, that includes you know, all the rules. And this day and age, the haircuts are getting pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be getting interesting, and I would imagine that in the political atmosphere that we have about us, especially with social media and everything, that getting somebody interested in being in a program isn't going to be that easy. I mean, if you get somebody that's interested in a program, you got a good one to go with. You know? Yeah,
and it's interesting. I mean, here in Staten Island, it seems like the overall tone of the island is a very patriotic.
Very much so.
Habitat. Yeah. You know, the culture here is very supportive of the military. So, you know, all the parents that I have obviously are very proud of their kids and excited about them being in the program. The one thing that you made me think about is that there are lots of people who don't want military in schools. They don't want military in colleges, and I know CSI struggled with that, trying to bring in an Army ROTC program here a couple years ago, and I don't think it stuck. I think that it was coming and it got brought down, and there's fears that if we bring a military campus presence, that you know there's going to be a stigma associated with that, and so I guess you know you don't want leadership, you don't want people who are you know abiding by an honor code and those kind of things. I don't understand the fear, but you know when they have to wear a uniform, they're representing themselves, their school, their community, the branch of service that they've got the uniform on, the country. That there's a lot of things there that you can't put money on. And
It brings back a lot of what maybe I, as a youngster, had instilled in me. I mean, society has changed so much over the years that you're afraid to stand up and salute for the flag. I mean, it's ridiculous what's going on. And when you get kids that are into it and into the program, that's a big plus. That's a giant plus.
It's interesting. You made me think of something. At Wagner High School, we stand up for the pledge. And I've never heard anybody say that people don't do that. I mean, we just do it. It's a culture. One of my girls, her family moved down to South Carolina or someplace, and they did the pledge, but everybody sat. And when they said, "Please join me for the pledge," she stood up, and she was the only one in the classroom that stood up. And she didn't sit herself back down. She stayed up. It took 2 weeks for a second student to join her and stand up. And she said about half the class would stand up for the pledge, and then her family decided they wanted to come back, and they moved back up here. She came back into the program, and she shared that story that, you know, here's the bravery of one person, moved to a different place, but she was going to stand up for something that had been ingrained in her. It was the right thing to do.
The other thing that I think the JROTC program helps with is you have some people, some students that are thinking about going to one of the service academies. And it's an excellent education. Yes, when you go to the service academy, then you do have a commitment. There is a commitment there. But the fact of the matter is you're getting a 4-year, very intensive education.
And getting paid for it.
And getting paid for it while you're there, yes, absolutely. And again, yes, you do have a commitment when you come out of that. I don't recall what the commitment is. I think it's 5 years now.
I think it's 5, and I know it depends on what some of the jobs you might go into. I think at the Air Force Academy, if you go into a flying career, and they want everybody who can physically fly to go that direction, then I think it's more like, it might even be up to 10 years now if you're going to go fly. But it's interesting how one way to look at it is, oh no, I don't want to have to give away that much more life. Another way to look at it is like, free education, you're actually getting paid, and then it's guaranteed job afterwards. I don't know why, having been through it and kind of tripped into it more than anything. I always say I Forrest Gumped my way into the academy, but since I was asked to go there.
But my point, again, going back to the JROTC, is that somebody has to make a decision about who goes to each of these service academies, because each congressman has so many people that he can put to the program. Seeing different candidates, you have to look for what makes one candidate a possible better mix
Tiebreakers.
than another item. Having somebody that has successfully gone through a JROTC program, in my mind, makes them that much more easy to fit into that service academy, and that's what you want. You want somebody who's going to succeed. You don't want somebody who's going to go up there and waste everybody's time and the government's money and take it away from somebody who could.
Just about out of time right now. I want to thank you so much for coming, and
thank you very much
for your service again. And Paul, as always, thank you. We thank you for watching In Honor Of. It's our honor to bring the program to you all of the time. I think we're on a couple hundred programs we've done, Paul?
Over 200.
I want to take this moment to thank Kerry Spearman did the last show with me while you were on vacation, and Kerry dropped this off for me 11/11/11 in honor of Veterans Day. And thank you, Kerry. I love this plaque. It's going up on the wall in my office. And Veterans Day, I want everybody out there and pay tribute to our men.